Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Slate Against the Machine. We are the team at Fae Pictures, a production company based in New York and Toronto on a mission to decolonize Hollywood. I am the company's president, El Presidente, Shant Joshi. My credits include films like Framing Agnes, In Flames, Queen Tut, Streams Flow from a River. And today we're going to be talking about on-set work culture. But before we get started, Lindsay, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Hey, I'm Lindsay Blair Goldner. I'm New York based and I am the VP of production at Fae Pictures. I've worked on a couple films. I like movies. Queen Tut, Streams Flow from a River, season 1, Going In. Worked on a couple short films. I also started in the commercial world, so I have a fun breadth of on-set experience, and I'm going to pass it over to Leonard.
Hello, I'm Leonard Shan. I'm the Director of Development at Fae Pictures. I'm a writer primarily, but for a while I did background work to make ends meet. So I've been on a lot of sets, a lot of sets to see what's going on there. It's fun, and I'll pass it on to my boss and the reason for my existence, Abdul.
Hello. I'm Abdul. My thesis of decolonizing Hollywood is bullying to run.
Bleep.
I write for TV. I've been on a couple of shows. I went to film school with my boss. So it's just bosses all the way down. In fact, the first time my boss walked onto film set, I believe it was one of my student films.
You were gaffing. It was
gaffing.
It was. I think I don't think I worked on Lost Lights. I worked
you did not work on that one,
but I worked on Tiny Mighty Tenma.
Yes, Maria Todorow's film. That was pretty good. I mean, the production value was fucking excellent.
Yeah,
anyway,
for the audience at home, what is gaffing? Is it making gaffs? What is it?
No, the gaffer is the chief lighting technician on a film set. Oh. They're the one who runs the electrical department, and the sparks or electrics are the ones who actually run around setting up the lights and wiring. It is a very respectable job, and they deal with danger every day. Also, I'm Abdul, by the way.
Abdul. When I first met Abdul, when I was a grip, I was a subservient. Abdul was my boss as the gaffer, and I was a grip. And so a grip is somebody who just runs around with C-stands, hitting walls and creating liabilities for producers to fix, making location owners really upset.
Respectfully, it sounds like you weren't a great grip.
I never was. And that's why I became a producer, because I was a really bad grip.
I will say this. It is locations. It is both on locations and the G&E department to make sure that those walls are padded. It takes two to tango in that situation.
That's true.
So your relationship with Abdul was like Michelle and Barack Obama, where he was your boss and then you became president.
Yes, it was forged on set. That's where Shant and I met. We've had a lot of insane set experiences over the years, I will say. Not all of them good, some of them bad, some of them amazing. But, I will say there's a family and culture that comes with being on set, especially when you're with the same people over and over again. Mm-hmm. That is, really nice. It's a real, we're in the middle of this shit together type of deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So for this episode, as we already started to map out, we're talking about on-set work culture. And just as a refresher for those who have tuned in on episode 8 or whatever episode this is the Slate Against the Machine podcast, where we pull back the curtain on the film industry and give emerging and underrepresented filmmakers the tool to get started and thrive. And so
Italians.
Oh boy. This one's a good one because we're going to be talking about what it's like to be on set and ultimately the work culture that we've experienced and the work culture that we'd like to create, especially as a production company now in the positions of power running production sets, basically. Mm-hmm. So, Lindsay, I'm just going to start with you in terms of the what to do, what not to do, kind of thing. But let's get started with, what do you mean by on-set work culture? What does that mean?
Okay, it's a great question. On-set work culture, when you're putting together a production for whether it's a TV show, short film, movie, you're putting a group of people in a work setting. Maybe it's a stage, maybe it's a real location like someone's home that you rented out. But on-set work culture is how you kind of dictate what that work culture on set will be. At Fae Pictures, we have a pretty, I think we've kind of really nailed down like what we like to see on our on-set work culture. So anytime you work for a production company, they usually have some kind of mandate or some kind of code of conduct that goes out that talks about on-set work culture, i.e. how you should conduct yourself on set. So easy kind of go-tos are like no bullying, no harassment, having point people on set if you need to report any incidents, any accidents, whether it's some kind of discrimination or a light falling, basically having all these parameters set up so that people can work safely, effectively, getting their job done, and they know who to communicate to if they need support with anything. So on-set work culture is really just how do you conduct the working space on set. And usually that's dictated by a production company and the producers.
It's like company culture in like any office. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. The only difference is it's like usually sometimes it's a different location every day. So sometimes there's new rules. Like if you're working in someone's home and you have Shant as a grip, maybe you don't want him carrying the C-stands in, so you got to make sure that everyone knows the kind of locations you're working in and how they can best be supported to execute their roles effectively. Cute kitty.
Yeah, this cat is the morale booster on my set, which is my house. Right?
So let's talk about the different dynamics that exist on a set, because while there is a larger, let's say, capital P production, there are different departments that are in different worlds, and there are, let's say, habits or recurring occurrences on certain departments. We want to talk about, let's start with the positive. Let's say, where have we seen some really great on-set work culture that has been positive and nurtured a positive environment on set? Where does that come from? Who sets the tone? I mean, the production company obviously sets the tone, but what other departments are part of that process of setting that tone?
I think a big component of that is like it has to be a discussion between director, producers, and first AD. The first AD is the person who kind of welcomes all the crew to set. I'm curious if it's the same for television or if that's a show or if there's another role that does that. But they conduct a safety meeting at the start of the day.
That's the AD. But like I will say, one of the things sort of adjacent to that is like we talk about different tiers of crews in this country. Like, there are Canadian crews who work on like a lot of American shows. There's like indie crews, there's stuff like that. But like an experienced crew who works on a lot of like bigger shows are always usually the easiest to work with, just because they've seen it all and they know how to work under pressure and they're efficient. Like, they set a really good tone of just like work hard, get the day done, don't fuck around, remember to have fun when you can, and just chill out, right? Like,
because I think that sort of comes from a unionized world where this is a job. Like, this is you wake up in the morning, you get to set, you arrive to set, you're as a unionized worker, you're earning ideally a living wage, basically. So you're not worrying about, let's say, the anxieties of trying to rise up the ranks so that you can you can walk away from the production with the best possible credit or the best possible pay because you were promoted, or trying to get the next thing, basically, or trying to get the attention of the producer so that they'll produce your next movie, or trying to get the attention of the director so that they'll direct your next movie. Like, that kind of environment generally can sometimes can arrive on independent productions when it's non-union and people are like, well, I'm not getting paid well enough to show up, so I'm just going to try and exploit this experience for as much as it. Not to say everyone does that, but that is a space that it does when you are working with lower paid people. It that tends to be like, how else can I benefit from this production.
I would just like to remind everyone listening that Fae Pictures is not unionized. And you should, for sure, email Shant Joshi, the producer, at gmail.com to tell him what your feelings and thoughts on that.
And if he doesn't get back to you, it's not because he does not have access to that email. It's that he does not want to respond.
Yeah. It's that he's busy putting money into anti-union efforts and right-to-work legislation and lobbying to respond to your email.
But Lindsay, do you want to talk about building positive work culture on non-union sets when we're working with
yes. And I will say, okay, the joke about not being unionized, but it's true. Like a lot of production companies at a certain budget, working in a certain budget tier, can't unionize. It doesn't make sense to unionize or be a union set. I work also, in addition to working with Fae, I work as a freelance line producer in New York, and I'm often working with non-union production companies on commercials.
If you were unionized, you wouldn't have to take another job, just saying.
Sounds nice. No one cares about producers being unionized except maybe Abdul. But yeah, like would it work? I don't know. I haven't seen it. But at a certain budget level, it just doesn't make sense. So I think the big thing is like you need your people to come to set and know that even though it's stressful, even though it's a film set, like there are certain stresses that come along with that. You still want people to have like a day where they feel empowered to do their best work. They are not exhausted and totally dead at the end of the day. You want to feed them, make sure they're nourished, make sure they have access to water, caffeine, like whatever it may be. I think the big thing for me is like, I love a well-fed crew. And that's not just saying like, I don't pay them. You pay them well and you feed them well. You want to keep people happy, even if it's a long day, because some days just naturally run long on film sets. So I think the ethos and the feeling of set has to be kind of dictated by the producers who are like dedicating money to craft, catering, extra PAs for extra hands for all the departments that are already maybe understaffed. You know, I think in my rule of thumb as a line producer, there's no such thing as too many PAs or too much craft. I think you can always go over budget on those line items because those are ultimately things that are going to benefit everyone around you. But it's just like any other working space. How can you make this at least as fun as a workplace can be for people to come, have a livable day on set where they feel like they can do their best work?
Yeah, I don't know what it says about me, but like all the sets I remember that stick with me are the ones that had the best craft tables.
Yep, every time.
Yeah,
or like the best caterers, like the ones like at like when you had lunch. It's like, oh my! Like, and I remember like I was on Suits for like a season, and it was just like they switched caterers midway through, and all of a sudden I was like, that's not as good. I remember, I was like,
it changes the feeling of the day.
It absolutely did. I looked forward, like yeah, and also like because like we're all poor, like if you're doing background, you're like almost by definition poor. So then like they give you like those the ones that like give you the extra containers so you could take all that stuff away so you have food like dinner. Like what a joy.
It's the best. And the craft table too. It's up for everyone, up for grabs at the end of the day.
Yeah. I will say one of the things, because you're asking about tone setting and stuff like that, and some of that comes from like the AD who is in charge of like the scheduling and making sure like moment to moment you're on track. But like the best sets, especially in the feature space that I've ever been on, are the ones where the director is chill. Even when things are going bad, like the director is not freaking, like they are the one who is dictating the pace, the emotion, the feeling of the production and all that stuff, right? And it's like if the director is like a yeller, if they are, you know, stressed out, if they're like clearly anxious and terrible at like talking to people, or just so wrapped up in their like art that they hate, that everything feels like a chore for them. Yeah, it really makes the crew hate them. Like, and the crew will not work as hard. Like, it's the most counterintuitive thing. Like, if you are creative on set, you have to lead by example all the time.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. All the best sets I've been on have had a director who was engaged and didn't see themselves as like higher than their crew. And unfortunately, like I think everyone on this call, we've all been on that set where the director thinks they are the next Stanley Kubrick, and they don't give a shit about their PAs, and they don't know how to say thank you to people. And you're right, that vibe can really seep into the crew and create like a really unfun and toxic work environment in a worst case scenario.
One of the things that helps a day become smooth is a smooth, on time, on schedule production. Leonard, I don't know if you have any experiences talking about working long hours while everyone's figuring out what to do over the next couple of minutes, basically.
Yeah. So I've been on. Okay, so I was on like the set of like a large American show where I was working 16-hour days. But also doing nothing, weirdly, because they have a lot of money. So I was just there doing nothing, but watching everybody else like kind of slowly losing it. And, you know, because they're just trying to get the shot. I've been on sets where I was an actor on this thing, and there was like, we are running up against, if we don't get this next shot, we go over budget. Like, this is it. Like, this is all we have left. And then it's like, don't fuck up. It's like, okay, so there's that pressure there. Now everybody's freaking out. So yeah, like and again, in those situations where you're like working really long days, like those are the days when like craft is so important. Those little luxuries can really get you through it, where it's just like, okay, like you're comfortable. There's somewhere for you to sit. That's not, you know, like extra holding or wherever it is, like, or you have a trailer. Like if you're actually, you know, to retreat to, like those are really nice things. Like long days are an inevitability, but unless there's like a child on set, and then it's like, oh, thank God, because now we got to wrap. But like, yeah, like those, you know, like it is really like the as we've been saying, like the culture comes from the top. So like the person at the top is stressing the fuck out. Like I saw, and I'm not going to name a name, but they like manhandled an AD and like threw him into a room, and we all saw it, and we're like, whoa, like that's not good. Like we're all kind of like freaking out because this was actually like a very famous person who did it. So then we're like, and they were producing the show and acting in it. So I understand that they were super stressed, but you know, to their credit, they did like address everybody and said, that was unacceptable. That was not a good way for me to handle myself. Like, I'm going to be better. And like moving forward, like this will never happen again, yada, yada, yada. And then everybody calmed down. So like he did, you know, or she did, take responsibility. So it is really that. It is like everybody says, it comes from the top. Like that's the key thing.
We've all, and again, like it is a learning experience. Like I will say, like everyone makes mistakes on set. Sets are like a high pressure situation. Like, you know, an AD will be in your ear being like, hey, like we have like, you know, no money left for this day. Like we can't go into OT. You have to hit this. You have to cut some things, right? Like you can plan perfectly and everything can still go wrong. People can get stressed out. Like ideally, it's how you respond to those things, how you are accountable for those things, and how you don't repeat those things that are sort of the crucial measures of, I think, your longevity if you are a position that works on set in this business, for sure.
Yeah. How do you, Lindsay, how do you, like, with regards to respect and making sure that there's respect both top down and bottom up in terms of making sure there's sort of, that mutual respect? Because I mean, at times we've seen this before where, you know, you can have people in charge who lose control of their set because people, you know, on the crew have suddenly lost their respect or lost their ability. They've lost the trust of the crew. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think it's a really tough thing when that happens because, especially on a long format shoot where you're trying to rally a group of people together to work on an independent film, you know, which is like our bread and butter, you have to keep up morale. And at that point too, it's like if you lose a couple people, it's really hard to get them to feel good and come back. Though I will say, like at the heart of it, when we try to crew up our projects, I think you have to be really mindful to crew appropriately for a project, meaning, you know, don't just hire any AD, hire an AD that really gets on with the director well and understands their vision and what they want to accomplish in a day. Make sure that all the crew coming on board have an understanding of what you're trying to achieve creatively first, right? Because especially when it's a non-union independent project, quite frankly, it's not just a paycheck for people because it's usually under what union status can pay. So then you want people to invest in a project at a creative level. And I find when you hire crew that way, like really thoughtfully doing your due diligence, checking references, making sure that what they're saying they're aligned with the project, that really does help to keep people on board. So even in the event of a conflict on set, which let's be honest, it happens even on the best crews, on the best sets, they're still invested in the project being completed. So we've seen that happen on some sets that I would say were otherwise great sets, but maybe two people didn't get along so great and we had to reassess how they could work together, but the shoot continued. I had a shoot that, famously did not go well. The set culture was really toxic from the director specifically, but everyone really put so much into the project creatively that there was a return on investment in completing it just for their own self-gratitude. It was also during COVID when there wasn't a lot of work going on. So I think it made it easier for people to stick around. But for the most part, I think it really starts with crewing and making sure you're talking to the right people and hiring the right people. And of course, you're going to make mistakes when you do it, but taking your time with crewing is key.
I will add to this that there's sort of two things about working on lower indie productions and also hiring is that the people you work with on the lower tier shows or the smaller shows are probably the ones who are going to hire you for another job, and they're also the people who might be your boss next job because at that level, everything is wide open in terms of what you can achieve in this business, right? Which is probably good to remember. And then the other part of it is that people do fucking reference checks and talk. That is the thing that happens in this business. And no one will ever largely go as far as to say oh, you don't want to work with this person, they're bad news, unless you've done something egregious. But you never hear the word interesting in a reference check. Oh, hey, can you tell me a bit about and it's is interesting. That means do not hire this person. The second you hear that interesting word, that is a do not want. You know what I mean? It's that. Those are sorts of codes. There is a sort of language to how people talk about people that does affect your ability to be sustainable in this business at all.
I will say though, Abdul brings up a good point about this person could be your boss, because I've always felt, and we at Fae conduct our sets this way, there is no hierarchy on our sets. Our PAs are as important as our gaffer, as our DP. Obviously, there is a hierarchy that people understand when it comes to reporting to work and work duties assigned on set. But in terms of people coming together, especially at indie scale, you cannot be treating a PA like they're meaningless. That person is literally making the show happen. Everyone who's coming together, we always talk about every film that's made. I'm not religious, but it's truly a miracle because so many people have to come together to make it happen. So yeah, you're right, Abdul. One day it's your PA and the next day he's the first AD and he's running the set. So you definitely don't treat people, based on their role a certain way. Treat everyone equally and with the same respect.
So this is interesting. So I think there's probably two versions of a PA we can imagine on set. One version of the PA, and they're both ambitious, and they both one day could end up being someone's boss, basically. But there's the version of the PA that, basically doesn't care about the work that they're doing right now because they think it's all grunt work, basically, and keeps going department to department, trying to extract as much as they can from each and every department, basically, to get the most out of it, basically. And then there's the other PA who's also trying to get the most out of the experience. But Lindsay, I don't know if you can talk about what does that PA look like? Who's the PA that they can get the most out of that experience, but also be a, let's say, value add to the production?
Of course. Well, I was just on a set last week for a non-union commercial where it was very clear to me, like, who is a PA I would hire again versus not. Mm-hmm. And the PAs that I would hire again, they made themselves available. They were totally upfront with me about like what they were comfortable with on set, whether it was driving trucks or where their interest lies. Because when I interview PAs, I like to ask them, hey, do you fancy a certain department? Do you see yourself kind of growing this way? So I had one PA who was really into ADing, the AD department. And so we had that PA assigned to kind of helping with the talent. They'd bring them in and have them do paperwork. And I had another PA who was really comfortable with our trucks and was the person who ended up doing a lot of our runs and our driving. And so you end up finding people who, you know, they're go-getters. They're really open about what they're interested in. I think the onus is on the producer to talk to their PAs and ask them, like, I started as a PA. I think we all did PA work, everyone on this call. You want to know what their ambition is, because a lot of the time I've not met a PA whose only ambition is to PA. A lot of the time they are interested in other departments. So I think the onus is on the producer to figure out where do their strengths lie, where are their interests, and can you help them get a bit of that experience on this set? Because it's also going to bolster their work ethic on set if they know, like, hey, I know I'm PAing, but I get to like talk to the first AD, or I get to support the camera department. Then you get someone who's really enthusiastic about coming to work and putting their best foot forward.
Sure. Abdul, Leonard, anything to add?
No, I mean, like, PAing is tough, man. Like, it's a tough job. It's not easy, or often, like, with locations or a line producer, you know, as the first one in, last one out and stuff like that, you know, pack in, pack out. I think that as a PA, actually as any role, but most roles above PA know this, like, the worst thing you can do is offer unsolicited feedback. Like, you know, a lot of times you'll get a PA who thinks they're the director. Shant, we saw this in film school endlessly, right? Both on professional and on film school sets, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And they'll also add, like, knowing the hierarchy is super important, right? Like, do not bother the person. Anyone who's not like the person directly above you is like a good way to keep a job and like be sustainable. Like, you know, a lot of people, and this is like classic PA mistake, is like, do not talk to the director unless you have to, right? Like, you know, it's always go to the AD, go to the first round, the director, let the director direct. Stuff like that. And like, again, remember, the director is like your creative, the number one creative role on set, and it's like
creative Jesus.
Creative Jesus, right? Yeah. In TV, it is a bit different, because in TV, like, writers are, you know, and typically in film, like, there's the director and then there's the producer, and really the producer is the one who can tell the director what to do. Or the AD and stuff like that. In TV, the writer is very different. The writer is on set, and they're the one who has to, like, you know, talk to the director, be like, you need to get this fucking shot. Like, can you please get the shot that you refuse to shoot? Like, I had this with a director where it's like, there was a director who, for some reason, would not get an insert that I knew would have to go into the edit. That was, like, specifically told by the showrunner, this is going in the edit. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh no, we'll just get a pickup as we're setting up for the next shot. And it's like, I know you're not going to get the pickup. I know you're not. Like, that's and it's like, but in a situation like that, you know what I mean? Like, knowing when and how to handle conflict is super important. And like, I'm not a conflict averse person, but, you know, there's a difference between like telling them that in front of their DOP, in front of the AD, or pulling them off to the side and being like, hey, just so you know, like, we have to get this shot. We have to get it now. Like, I can call the showrunner and tell them to tell you that, or you can go to the DOP and grab that pickup right now. Like, I don't want to be a dick about it, but we need this. I know you don't think we need this, but we need this, right? Like, and it's like doing that out of earshot of the crews, because the crew's not looking at you when it comes to like setting a tone and like feeling like they can respect the person, creative Jesus. They're looking at the director, right? Like, knowing how to have those conversations, I think, is like a big part of being on set. How to address conflict, when to make conflict, when to hash things out, when not to, how to put things away, I think is kind of crucial. And
For sure.
also knowing when to fucking let people go. I think that's actually a producer's really, like, one of the hardest parts of that job is, like, just looking at a set and being like, we have a toxic grip and that person needs to disappear by tomorrow, right? Like, call the Teamsters and get them to, get the Miafa. Yeah.
So there's there's the bad apple, the toxic individual that's sort of, let's say, poisoning the well, for lack of a better word. Is there any other way to remedially try and address the issue so that they maybe bring a new positive environment to set the next day? What tactics are there available to heads of departments or producers to try and avoid firing someone, but trying to get them to come return to set with some positivity?
It's all communication.
That's so
right?
tough. It's so tough though, because it really depends on the situation. Like, I had a first AC on a feature film who was commercial. They were recommended by the DP, and this was a very indie shoot. So I spent a lot of time talking to this AC, being like, these are the hours, they're really long. There's 2 days that are going to go over those hours, because I knew, coming from a commercial background, he was going to be, dealing with longer days and less pay. And I figured he'd be annoyed by that. He sounded like he was totally cool with it. And then, of course, inevitably the long day happens and he's walking around set, not helping. Like, everyone was trying to load out of a location and he basically told people to drop equipment. That's not your job, like souring the entire thing that everyone knew it was going to be a long day. So I didn't know what to do, because I was so upset when I realized what had happened. And I thought I didn't do my due diligence to figure this out. Like, he was being so disrespectful. So what I did was I checked in with his department, his second AC, the DP, and I said, hey, how did you guys feel about that day? And they all said the same thing. We knew it was coming. We were prepared for it. We didn't know that this person would be so upset. So I kind of told my DP, who was basically the AC's boss, right? Like, if you think he's going to continue to act this way, I will ask you to find a replacement or give me another name and I'll replace them. And I told the AC that. I basically sent a long email with all the receipts of, like, you knew this was going to be a long day. I don't appreciate you talking to the crew this way. You weren't helping anyone. It didn't help the day go faster. And if you want to walk off the set, by all means, I have another AC and holding. And then the next day, he was all smiles and apologies. So it was a weird moment, because I really didn't know. And I was prepared for both scenarios. I think as a producer, you have to be. You either have to commit to letting go of that person and replace them, or maybe they come with a different attitude, but you can never guarantee that stuff. I mean, they're human beings. It's like any job where you can never really predict what people will do, but being transparent as possible about what the days look like, I think, is always in your best interest as a producer.
Yeah, it's expectation management.
Right? It really is the don't be an asshole rule, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, there's always going to be an asshole. Sorry, Leonard.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's okay. No, I will say, like, what I found universally in my experience is, like, comedy sets are so much more fun than drama sets, always.
For sure.
Like, they're always so much easier, because we're all just laughing, and we know, as comedians, like, we are trained to break tension. Like, that's just kind of the job.
Yeah.
Right. And and so I've been on sets where it's like, this is a live show in front of a live audience, and it's going out live on air, like, in real time. And of course, like, things go wrong, and, like, people, and we have to, like, cut things in real time, because we're like, oh, well, so this, we didn't cut that line. We're way behind. This person, like, went way long. And now we have to, like, tell the mayors of Toronto and Calgary they don't get to speak. So, so it's like stuff like that.
But you bring up a really good point that I think is so important, and I love saying this at the start of every shoot, whether it's a commercial, a feature film, series, whatever. We are here to shoot blah, blah, blah. We are not saving lives. Yes, the job is stressful, but nothing comes before the health and safety of our crew. So, like, treat each other with respect. Let's have fun. It's just a film shoot.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I've only ever walked off a set back when I was doing G&E for, like, 2 reasons. And the first reason was safety. The first time was safety. It was like I was on a short film shoot where the DOP was, like, decided they were behind schedule and wanted to, like, run around and start setting up lights and, like, not listen to people. And they tripped over a light, and I told them, you can't do that. And they screamed at me. And I was like, okay, my team is walking off. We're not going to be here anymore.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I want to. That's a. Oh, sorry. Go on.
I was going to say, the director of that short film for the last, I'm not joking, 12 years as I switched careers has tried to get me fired from every job he has also been tangentially involved in because he took such a fucking offense to that.
Really?
I will not name names.
Yeah. I won't name names on because the very first set I was ever on was tremendously unsafe. I almost got run over by a monster truck, and I did get hit by a car. And that director, John Landis. So
amazing. On brand. On fucking brand.
Absolutely on brand. Very first set I've ever been on. Yeah. I didn't know. And then, I literally, it was a night shoot. There was rain on the set, so there's this massive rain machines overhead. There's like wind machines and lightning machines. So they're like, all right, there's gonna be wind, there's gonna be rain, and there's lightning machines. We're not gonna tell you where they are because if you look at them, you'll go blind. But and so then they're like, and so we're gonna yell action, and then the Bluesmobile is going to drive through the crowd, get out of the way of the car, and so. They yell action, I get jostled, I look up, lightning machine goes off, I in fact do, as they warned me, go blind. So now I can't see anything, and I'm hearing just pandemonium around me. I hear the car coming, and I have to choose a direction. I don't know which way, I just kind of go 50-50. I choose wrong, bam, get hit by the Bluesmobile. And they yell, cut, of course, and yeah, so that was the first set I've ever been on, and
so you died.
I died.
You're Kevin Spacey and Marty Supreme.
I don't.
Kevin
no,
O'Leary?
I'm not
O'Leary?
Kevin Spacey.
So no, Kevin Spacey, Kevin O'Leary, Kevin. Same difference.
Wrong on so many levels.
Kevin, very. The views of Shant Joshi do not reflect the views of the rest of the participants in this podcast. Kevin O'Leary has never credibly been accused or charged with sex crimes,
but he has killed a person.
Allegedly, his wife.
He is a vampire.
He is a vampire. That is true. It's interesting. I was just thinking about trying to remember the other time we walked off set, and that was a student film where the craft was so bad that everyone. I think it might have been the one where we met on Shant, or the one after, like a year later. But like the director hired her partner who they were both vegan, and they had like vegan craft, which was fine. There's actually nothing wrong with vegan food or vegan craft, but their partner had decided that they were going to make all homemade vegan craft, and they could not cook to save their lives.
Oh no!
Oh my god!
So there was like half a loaf of like homemade bread, some of the shittiest chickpeas you've ever eaten, and it was like one of those conversations where you talk to the person in charge, and you're like, no one will come in tomorrow to help you finish this film that they're working on as your fellow students, unless you get like actual food, because like people are starving and miserable. And otherwise it was very smooth, but it was just that one thing where people were just bitching nonstop about it, as they should have. It was awful. And it's like, cheese pizzas for the next 3 days, but that's better than like whatever the fuck was on the table, right? It's like a good indicator that like everyone knew you work on those films for free, and you just feed people what like enough to keep them full and happy. And like, even if
I remember when Abdul was doing catering and craft services.
Okay, that food was fucking tight. I'm sorry, me and Aaron killed it. You
and Aaron, like every time I showed up to the kitchen, you and Aaron were having a great fucking time. Like you had like bulk Costco stuff. You're just like throwing things in, making food.
One time,
it'd be amazing.
Sorry, let me give you this context for a second, and I'll actually let you in on probably one of the worst things me and Aaron did, or I've ever done on set. We were on this like student film shoot. We offered to do craft services as a bit, and then started doing craft services. So we went to Costco together. It's like happy domestic thing. We spent like, it was an insane amount of money. We spent like $800 on craft, and we were in the middle of like a res using someone's sister's house. and it was like the worst weather you could imagine outside. It was like October. It was raining nonstop. My car got stuck on mud twice during that production, and everyone's like freezing their ass in like a abandoned barn outside, and like we're just like inside, like burritos, chili, having a beer, like cooking up, like it was honestly like feast after feast after feast with snacks, with subs. And then like we had different subs every day. Like subs, for those who don't know, are like the little snack in between meals that people get, like the 15-minute break. And like subs are usually like small wraps, sandwiches, small like finger sandwiches, stuff like that. But every day we'd call it the roulette sub, where we just lather one in hot sauce and figure out who got it after the fact and not tell anyone. And one time it was the director's girlfriend was like, "What the fuck was up with that sandwich? That was like, so much spicy food." Like, but like, damn, that was just such a fun time, because we were like, people would come in being like miserable and wet, and we'd just be there like in our aprons, which we brought with us, like ladling chili like babushkas, like
these two are amazing babushkas. It was always a great time. Like, I was the production coordinator and I was doing a million things, but I was the one delivering catering to set, and it was like the best job, because I got to go there every day, like 3-4 times a day, and just hang out with Aaron and Abdul and babushkas and have some great food, and then go back into the wilderness of the cold. It was nuts.
It was the best fucking time. God, that set rocked, because it was just like, there were points where we were just on the floor like laughing to death as we like just like heard on the radio, the walkies, just how unhappy people were, and we're like during chili. We're like, we actually had, that's where we came up with our there was a point where it might have been a idea of like opening a restaurant too. Like, it was so funny. He runs a chain of vape stores now, I think. Rest in peace, King.
Good old times. And I think that's, unless anyone wants to add anything further on set work culture, I think we'll wrap it up there with a little what are we watching. So Abdul, it's your turn this week. What are you watching?
What am I watching? I've been working like 14-hour days for the last 3 weeks. Me and Megan are currently on a Lord of the Rings rewatch, but more than that, the one show I am making sure I keep apprised on is The Pit.
Ooh, is that back?
Yeah,
it's back. Perfect television show, made perfectly by perfect people. Holy shit, The Pit is incredible. It's honestly like, and season 2 is even better. It is sublime. But you know what the real joy of a show like The Pit is? If you're ever on set, you will learn that there's one thing, 2 words you will hate more than any if you are on set. Like the 2 words that will like really make you wake up in a cold sweat and give you anxiety attacks. And those 2 words are location move, or unit move. Because they're just the most stressful, no time, got to pack everything out, can't destroy anything, we got to set up another day, right? Like somewhere else.
Yeah.
I watched that show where they're all in a set and they're never doing a location move, and I'm just like, I do get kind of jealous. You know what I mean? Like, do just watch it and you're like, oh, you fuckers cracked the code. You're making a great show, and everyone on that set, on top of being like a Hollywood crew, is probably just so chill, because it's like you just walk to your parking lot. You don't even have a home base. You know what I mean? You don't even have a, what do they call it?
Base camp.
You don't even have base camp, right? You're just like, drive onto the lot at Warner or the fuck you are, park.
Warner, probably.
Walk into makeup, and you never have to leave this ever. And I hate them for it.
Well, there's also some amazing like travel show. I mean, Succession. Every new episode, you're like off in another gallivanting on yachts, and so I don't know. Maybe the crew hate doing the gallivanting. Maybe it's not as luxurious as it appears on camera. But I know like White Lotus, for example, like they were shooting in like freezing cold weather in Italy because that was the only time that they could film at that resort on season 2 was during the winter, and so everyone was miserably cold while pretending that it was the summertime. Anyways, and with that, we thank everyone for joining us on another episode of Slate Against the Machine, and we'll see you again in the future with another episode. Thanks so much for listening.